Friends, how is it going? How's it going out there? You okay? You okay? Well, the news came out here about the job reports, and thank God, sadly, sad to say, they were bad. And if I feel bad if like somebody's new in the market right now and they're going like, I thought if job reports are bad, the market's supposed to be really bad. Well, obviously, when the job reports came out here on Friday, the market at first reacted very heavily to it. Like it was pushing hard. Like we were like, oh my God. But then obviously around 10:30, 10, almost 11 o'clock, we started to see people were taking profit. I mean, big profit was coming in. So, people were taking the money and running, obviously. Now, as the day went on, well, what started to happen? The market started to shoot back up here because what do you know? Job report's bad. People know, what do they know? They know that the Feds, when they talk here in just a short amount of time, they're more than likely going to be forced to do a rate cut. Okay, rate cut. So, with that, this is going to drive up REIT stocks, bank stocks. It's going to drive up the overall market. And this is where the 7,000 point range S&P 500 conversation starts to look more attainable each day. So, with that, the deeper we get into September here, and obviously there's more to this painting that we cannot see yet, because we don't know 100% how many rate cuts. Now, I think it's pretty obvious to say everyone would say 99% of us would say there's going to be a rate cut, but that highly goes down when we go, well, how many rate cuts? Are we getting 2 rate cuts, 3 rate cuts? They can't do 4. There's no way they're doing 4. 3, possible. 2, probably. 1, definitely. So with that, talking about Sofi here, for God's sakes, I know you guys are like, shut up and talk about Sofi. Sofi had a great day. Pre-market, it was booming. Then the market opened up and it was back in that 25 high zone. And then we sold, and then with the market, it followed suit here. It sold up back down to that 24 mid-range, which is still very high for Sofi. Great position right there. And now pushed back up into this 25.60. So, it was a great day. I think this was, if you were swing trading today, Friday here, that was a great opportunity for people, 100%. But I think this is going to be what we're looking at next week in the market. The real, so far, the next news that will obviously come up next week in the market is this whole tariff court appeal. Trump, are the Feds, or is the government going to have to, are we going to have to pay back the tariff money, or are we going to keep the tariff money? Obviously Trump's fighting it, so we'll see. The market wants the tariffs. The market wants that money. It does not want to give it back. So that may cause some tidal waves in the market next week. We'll see. But nonetheless, the big thing that the market is super excited about is we're getting a rate cut. We're getting a rate cut. It's already priced in a rate cut, and more than likely it's going to continue to push on this rate cut. So I would highly expect into next week, we will see the market push up. We will see the market have some very good movement. And 2, this is going to be a situation where it's going to be kind of quiet next week because the Feds, they've gone dark. The Feds cannot talk next week. This is when the Feds go dark. They can't do interviews. They can't do anything like that because they can't give any indication of what they're doing, what they're thinking. So they just pretty much avoid the public. So when the Feds meet back up here on September 16th, 17th, we will know. So that is a lot of time between then and now of trading, and this is where I think these next 2 weeks are going to be extremely volatile in the market. I think we're going to be like, what is going on here? So with that, I think there's a lot of room for people to make huge swing trades, day trades. But 2, talking about Sofi, I think this is, I still think that Sofi is completely undervalued, 100%. I mean, I am in the realm of saying that I think within, year, 2 years, that Sofi undoubtedly going into what this market looks like, especially next year with, maybe we're going to start 2026 out here with 3 rate cuts under our belt going into this new year. This is going to be huge for banks. This is going to be huge for Sofi, especially. The positives right now with SoFi is that, well, the rate cuts. Okay, yeah, I'll shut up about 'em, but rate cuts. Two is that we're about to go into, essentially by the time the market opens up next week, we're under 60 days before the Q3 comes out. Well, when Q3 comes out, we pretty much know it's going to be a solid quarterly. I mean, that is pretty much, that's going to happen. Okay, well, next is that, well, by time that Q3 comes out, we could be potentially, we've already had one rate cut, and potentially we could be getting another rate cut. And then on top of that, when SoFi starts to release its quarterlies, there's going to be a lot of other massive stocks releasing, companies releasing their quarterlies, so it will continue to push up the market. We could be in a real feeding frenzy here in a few months, 2 months, less than that essentially. But two, with that, there's still these things that could potentially, I don't think it's potential, I think it's going to happen. I think you're starting to see the structure of what is coming here in 2026 with SoFi. I think $50 will be here before people know it. I think SoFi is going to start leapfrogging into some huge numbers. Essentially, what we saw from Robinhood this year, I think that picture could really plant itself on what SoFi is, where it's at right now. It's only going to take, one or two more quarterlies for SoFi to push into this $1 billion range. So close. Two, with that, this is a moment where SoFi next year could go into the S&P 500. So SoFi is put in the S&P 500. That right there is a whole introduction itself to where, that's a huge deal. I mean, do you remember when Palantir went into the S&P 500? We're talking about going into ETFs, S&P 500. Just so much more money, so much more exposure right there for that stock. This is what is going to really start to push up the price in conversation right now with SoFi. I mean, this could get really, really crazy here real fast. So, this is why when I say when SoFi could really hit, this $30, $40, $50 range here before people know it, I think that's I don't know how people don't see it. I really don't. I think this thing has so many rockets behind it that are lighting themselves slowly. But there's going to be a moment here where leapfrogging starts to happen, where people go like, oh my God, like what's going on here? It's the rate cuts. It's the quarterlies. Like I was saying, Q4 here, Q3 is really going to be telling. If you look at Q1 to Q2 so far this year with SoFi, the jump is huge with quarterlies. So Q3 here is pretty much going to tell us, I don't think we'll hit $1 billion. Potentially, I hope to God I'm wrong. But if they don't hit $1 billion, Q4, in that Q4 has a lot of potential big betting average to hit $1 billion quarterly. That's going to change it right there. That's going to be the one. So you had this long trajectory. I can't say that word. Long push up here with SoFi. A beautiful revenue stream of quarterlies. And it could bleed right into that $1 billion quarterly range going into 2026. Rate cuts, markets going crazy. And obviously, friends, I'm aware that there's going to be issues in the market. I'm aware that inflation is going up. I'm aware that, this tariff situation is still going on. I'm aware that people are still, yelling and screaming at each other with these countries. I'm aware that there's going to be tidal waves in the market. But if I'm going to go into this future market, when I'm going into 2026 here with this market, I'm going to go into this new year with amazing stocks, amazing companies. And SoFi undoubtedly is one of those companies. Thank God SoFi is finally getting the recognition it deserves. This has been I think it's still undervalued, but you want to talk about, I've been here yapping I think a lot of us have, I know there's many people here that have been saying this stock is criminally undervalued. I mean, insanely undervalued. It was just months ago we were buying SoFi for $9, $10. I mean, it was just the other day essentially. And before that it was $4. So, I mean, talk about opportunity. In two, this is why I'm saying, just months from now, this could be $30, $40, $50 stock. I mean, we don't know what's coming here with the Feds. They may go drastic. They may be like, listen, we're really concerned about inflation. We're really concerned about where things are going. They may say, hey, we're going to do 3 rate cuts. That's the way it's going to be. Do you know what is going to happen to the market as soon as they say it? The market's going to go, whoa. It's going to be like a rocket. It's going to be a rocket. It's going to be crazy because it's pretty much a green card to just drive money into the market. Now, obviously, for the bears in here going, well, you know what it's going to lead to. It's going to lead to the market falling apart next year. Maybe so. We'll see. But this is why the argument of holding good stocks, especially at such a young exposure right now, before they're exposed to these rate cuts, getting in now is so important going into the new year. Friends, I really do. I wish everyone best of luck with the market. I think we're all about to be highly shocked I think we're all about to be part of a wild ride in this market and where things are going. This is going to be very interesting. Friends, take care of yourself. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.